Well, this topic, as I mentioned last time, is an important topic in relation that a lot of activities that can be done as a joy, we have it as a chore, and sometimes not even as a chore, almost as a torture. So the question is how we can do for that, and um, I was very close to people and also thinking, and I wrote something about Diwali, no, for the last festivity from the Indian people, and now we have Christmas, and I wrote something also too to Thanksgiving that I was last Thursday in the US, and all of these activities creates tension. And the question is, what can we do? How can we do to enjoy life better? And this year just happened. That happened. I don't know how many years that happened. That Christmas and Hanukkah, that is the Jewish festivity, are coming on the same day on December the 25th, just as a coincidence, because Christmas is under the solar calendar, but Hanukkah is under the moon calendar, so it changes every year. So here we are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a theory behind, and I'd like for you to think of a relationship that you have that for Christmas, for example, it doesn't need to be Christmas, but for Christmas, for example, you have a history that the conversations could go bad. The relationship could go what we call in English pear-shaped. Have you been in a relationship that you start the conversation well, but ended bad? That it happened to you once?
Of course, unfortunately.
It happened to me once, repeated many times. So,
1,000 times.
of course. So the question here is to go to the role cascade. That is a way to look at. It's like an X-ray of relationships. Like to have an X-ray is into something that is very subjective. Relationships are very subjective, but this way can help us to have a little bit of a objective analysis of what happened, so we can have some capacity in what to do. We are going to do this on ourselves today, but for me, it has been an amazing tool to do it in individual counseling, but especially in family counseling. When we're working with a couple or with a family, I don't have time to talk about that now, but I'm going to do some videos about that and to have this like a mini course on relationships. So let me see if I can. How can I see? Wait a second. It is. So can you see the screen?
Yes, the title Role Cascade.
The title, yes. So the way that we are going to look at role cascade is if we learn it and we apply it, can transform the way we live and we relate. For Moreno, roles is that, this is a definition he has, is the actual and tangible form which the self takes or acts. So is the self in action in a specific moment. What I added there is the way we respond to life. is the way that we communicate from the time we are born. So when we say that we respond to life, is that this plan of the active roles, I'm going to focus especially on relationships. That is a more tangible way that we have. But we play roles also with intangible things or with things. For example, we play a role when we have a headache. How I'm going to respond to the headache will give me a sense of feeling better or worse with myself. If we have a bad news, how I respond to that, it will define who I am. From Moreno, the roles are familiar, for example, father, mother, uncle, grandmother. There are social, like policeman, woman, a salesperson, a postman, postwoman, and pathological. So we can call somebody neurotic, or we can use you are a psychotic person. So we are assigned to the person a pathological role. And also we have psychodramatic roles. Psychodramatic roles is, for example, that person is like a Superman. That person is like El Zorro. And now we can also use people, this is like a Trump, Donald Trump. These are people who has acquired some sense of cultural knowledge, and we use them to assign some of the roles, and we know somehow what we mean with that. But today, I'm going to talk about active roles. The active roles is building on Moreno and Max Clayton role theory. Max Clayton was the pioneer of psychodrama in Australia and New Zealand. So I'm honoring these two teachers. Moreno differentiated the roles as I'm going to there, but before that is the principle of the roles is that we cannot not respond to a stimulation. When somebody says, "Oh, I don't respond to that," we cannot not respond. There is always how I respond. And Moreno gives three different ways to do it, three types of roles. One is what is called the role given. Role given is the role that I'm exposed to. It's like life or another person gives to me the role that provokes my response that I cannot not respond. Please stop me if you have any questions. Then I will grab that role and I will respond in the way that the person wants me to respond. I forgot if we touch on that in the other workshop. So we have somebody who said, I want you to do that. And I hate to do that, but I would say, yes, okay, I will do it. This is role taken. It's role given and role taken that I associate with the other role and I respond. And from Moreno's point of view is I respond like a robot. That is a knee-jerk reaction where I don't have much agency. The power in this relationship is in the role given, because I adapt and accommodate to whatever the other person wants. And the other one is role playing. Role playing, the person says to me, I need for you to do that now. So I take that and then I reflect. I have a space in my mind and to say, I'm sorry, but I cannot do it, or I don't want to do it, or I can do that, but I cannot do it now. I can do it this afternoon at 6 p.m. So in that case, I'm taking control of myself, and that response is stimulated and marked by creativity and individuality. This is what he calls a creative genius, very flamboyant term. So we live in our life between a robot or a creative genius. So the question is that when I'm responding to someone, I'd like for you to look at in your relationships to certain people that you feel that you have the space to respond in the way that you feel that you can have some agency. And this is in the part of the creative genius. I can grow as the other person grows too. Or I feel trapped by that relationship. This is very common in familiar roles, but also at work, and that we get in a relationship that I'm reacting like a robot. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes. Now, another reality is that we live in the immediate present. The brain lives in the present, not 1 minute before or 1 minute after. The present is all that exists for the brain. And what I act, what I do, makes me who I am in that specific moment. This is very important from sociometry or the theory of psychodrama from Moreno. Traditional psychology says that because I exist, I act. So my self exists, and from myself, the roles emerge. For Moreno, the ego emerges from the role, from the roles we play. So I am the roles I play. Therefore, if I'm talking to somebody as an angry shouter, who am I in that moment? I'm an angry shouter. So it's not for me to say, oh no, but I'm a good person, but in that moment I was that. No, in that moment I was an angry shouter. Now, what I'm going to do with that is up to me. But this is very important from the philosophical point of view. I always mention Viktor Frankl because his comment about the stimulus and response is so important. He says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. It is in that space where there is freedom and our power to choose our response. This is fantastic. So active roles, or the exercise today, is to be able to identify that space so we can gain agency and choice. There is another technique that we call the amber light. We'll see if we do another webinar on that. That is especially for addictions, but also is especially for people with anger problems. So this is helping us to identify the moment or the window that I can have some agency. I think you, like me, have experienced that when you are in a relationship and then we are not aware that something is happening that is changing, and then we lose the plot and we lose it. And then it's very hard to come back to a strong footing into that because we lost that moment. That space, that moment, very often is that window is extremely thin. And for us, it's important to identify that window because once we lost that space, that moment is very hard to come back to it. Are we happy until now?
Yes.
Yes. So now
thank you.
Now we are going to go to what we call active roles. Why active roles? It's because there is an action. It's an action, and we say that each role, and this is my development of the role, each action consists of a feeling and an action. And that follows, based on neuroscience, how the brain works. Every thought we have and every action we have is based on the emotions we have. This is very important for us to know, that whatever thinking we have I say, where does it come from? And this is coming from an emotion. So for us, it's a wisdom to say, if I keep that thought in my mind, that builds me the best of me or not the best of me. If I continue with that emotion, I feel resentment, I feel anger, and feel all of this in my life. If I continue like that, it will make me the best of me or not the best of me. And with the action, it's the same. If I continue doing that, it will make me the best of me or not the best of me. Therefore, what we're doing here is to help us to identify who we are. Now, in the same way that we cannot identify our face, we cannot see our face. We can only we need a mirror to do that. We cannot see our emotions or we cannot see our actions. Therefore, we need to have some kind of a detachment to observe ourselves. The method for which we do that is the play of life or psychodrama, that we can create an image, a situation, and then we can look it from outside. We can become an observer of ourselves. So in that case, it helps us, but we don't have time to go into the play of life. But if you see the recording from that we did with Anna, you will see how I use that with her. Entonces we have the feeling plus an action. Roles can be in two ways. It can be a constructive role, that is a role that grows us, grows me, and always grows other. For Moreno, an appropriate role is the role that is appropriate for me and appropriate for the other. Very often we'll say, oh, but this is good for me, but I may be damaging the other person. The idea is to find a role that is good for both. Good doesn't mean that we like it, and doesn't mean that the other person will like it, but it's appropriate. It helps the person to grow. This is very important because very often we look at a constructive role, something that I like to do, but sometimes I may not like it. For example, here the example is, remember, a feeling and an action. The feeling is calm. I'm a calm explainer. How do I feel? Calm. What I do? Explainer. What am I doing? Explainer. How am I doing? In a calm way. I'm a clear boundary setter. I'm a focused confronter. Now, I may be very annoyed by the person, and I may not like to be a calm explainer. But learning how to be a calm explainer in spite of I don't like it is my growth. Now, I maybe with somebody as a friend or somebody in the family that I'm a focused confronter. Confronter doesn't mean a crush, but I'm a clear confronter, for example. And I may hate to do that. The other person might hate it too. But this is a conversation that has to be done. Therefore, it's good for us. This is very important. The other one is fragmenting roles. Fragmented roles weakens me, diminishes me, and diminishes the other person too. So in the same way that constructive roles are not related to like, fragmented roles are not related to dislike. For example, I can be an angry withdrawer, a righteous punisher. So, for example, for me, I remember one day my wife treats me not well, and she was bad, but I didn't do anything. So she saw that, and very quickly she changed and she said, I'm so sorry. I don't know why I treat you like that. She was beautiful. But I kept becoming treating her at a distance and not well. So because I teach these things, I thought, what role am I playing? And I realized that I was playing the role of righteous punisher. But the more important thing
The role of what, excuse me?
is written here, righteous punisher. Does it make sense? Because I was punishing her because she treated me badly before. But she said sorry, but I didn't hear it. But the more important thing is when I identify I'm playing a righteous punisher, the more important thing was that I loved it. I love playing that role. And that, of course, made me shameful of that. No? But it's important that the roles are not related to like, are related to appropriateness. So to say to somebody, somebody in the family or whatever, to say, I'm sorry, I cannot do this now. Now, you are a clear presenter at taking your space, at putting boundaries, a clear boundary setter. I will have in the other one that you may not like to do it, and the other person may hate it. And the other person may throw a tantrum because you did that. But it's appropriate. The other person is to learn that you are not a robot, not to respond to the other person's need every time. And the other one is ambivalent roles. Ambivalent roles are roles that are mixed of an emotion that is fragmenting or constructive, and the other one is not in accordance with the other one. So we have one role that is constructive and one fragmenting. I may need to go soon because I don't know what happened, that the cable I have is not working. So I will need to go in a second. So ambivalent roles are the roles that are more complicated to identify. Are, for example, a mother who is taking care of a child. The father and the mother work, but the mother chooses to stay home and to be with the child. The child, they have a 2-bedroom, a 2-floor house, a 2-level house, and the child is the whole week sick, and the mother is exhausted. On Saturday, the father is watching TV, having a beer, and the child calls. What the child calls? Mom or dad? Who the child will call to?
Mom.
Mom.
To mom.
Of course. So the wife is exhausted downstairs and said to the husband, darling, can you go to see Jimmy? And the husband says, yes, of course. Is he going?
I don't think so.
He's not going. So she goes. How does she feel?
Annoyed.
Annoyed. Resentful. But with the way she stays with the son is good. So it's a resentful carer. Those roles, when that exists, because they usually have a positive action, a constructive action, we are not aware that the way that we are doing it is draining. And this is a role that many people in service industries, nurses, doctors, teachers, people who are in service industries confront. And this is what creates burnout, exhaustion and burnout. So each one of the relationship we cannot not act outside these roles. Okay? And it's very simple. It's so simple that it's almost psychology for dummies. But if we understand that, it can change our life. Being simple doesn't mean to be easy. So, for just to have a few minutes here of to pause, meanwhile I'm going to get the cable. But any comments or any question? How does this sound to you? And in some of the relationships you chose to work on, did you feel identified any one of these dynamics in this relationship? Who was the role given? Was the role taken? Do you feel that you were like a robot or a creative genius? Is the way you play constructive, fragmenting, or ambivalent? And were you able to catch yourself in that window, in that space? So I can continue hearing you, listening to you. So if I have one or two people to ask questions or to comment, and then we go directly to a case study. Any comments?
Yes, I have a comment.
Yeah.
The ambivalent role is the most interesting for me because in my case, it touches emotions, and I have ambivalent roles. For example, at my workplace, when somebody acts with me like giving me something to do, but she's not my boss and she do not have this rule to give me a task. And she says, I'm speaking about one concrete person. And she says to you, Hannah, do this, do that, and she's not my boss. I'm angry with that. She should not tell me this. She should not give me the task. And on another way, on another side. On another side, she's sometimes kind to me. She says, "Oh, sweetie, you are a good girl. How good you are looking." And both these speakings touch my emotions. So one side, she's acting very good with me, and on another side, she's acting with me very bad way. She do not have this rule to act with me like that. So I'm very ambivalent, and the emotions goes one way, on another way, again on one way, on another
So
way.
this is a good thing, and then we need a protagonist to do it more in depth. But if you need to identify the feeling, what is the feeling, and what do you do?
Yes, when she says something to do, something she's giving the task. If I think that I should do that, okay, I'm saying that's okay. But if I'm thinking that she do not have the rule to give me this task, I'm saying, you know what? I have a boss. When
No,
he
but
will
this will
tell
not.
me,
But what emotion do you have in that moment?
I'm angry, of course.
You're angry, and what do you do?
Responding what I'm thinking to.
So
say.
you're an angry responder.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is, you're right, like an ambivalent role. But later on, I'd like for you to think more about, what am I doing? I am blocking her. I'm obeying, even though I don't want to do it. So the idea of what I do is very important. And then how I'm doing that. Like I'm a resentful follower, for example. Okay? Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any other comments? Did you see a picture of in the way you are relating based on this theoretical framework? You have any question?
I was able to see the exact same picture for me. I was in a caretaker role, but I was really angry with the people who put me in the role, but then took no responsibility.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can relate to that.
So this is like the role we have here, resentful carer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Angry and resentful.
Angry. Angry carer. Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, we have seen a little bit like this. So when you are an angry carer and somebody asks you to do that, who has the power in that relationship? The person who is asking you or you that you're responding? A question to everybody. Who has the power in that relationship?
I think both.
The person
no.
who's asking.
No, it's only one
No,
has the power. In that
Not
case,
always.
the person who has the power is the person who is provoking, sending you the role because you are responding. Now, you have the potential power to act. But in that moment, it's the other person who is running the show. And there are
No, I understand.
There are relationships like this that there are forever. Very common, parent and children sometimes create this dynamic, and it's hard to see it. But this is like an X-ray of the relationship. Of course, we are looking at here relationships that are not very pleasant. But also, we can use the same thing for beautiful relationships. I enjoy a full day. So what happened? Well, I was a happy sharer, and the other person was a content inviter. So that's beautiful. So it's good also to see this is good, this is nice. No, but of course, in this case, we are looking more as a negative or a difficult situations. Let's have a simple example. This is Glenn. For those who knows the Enneagram, he is a 4. The Enneagram 4 is somebody who likes to be feel what's the word, visible and validated. He's a beautiful employee and extremely grateful for his position as a personal assistant to the managing director, who is an Enneatype 8. Donald Trump is an 8. Okay? So just for you to know the type. The salary and benefit he receives are far above normal standards, and he's well aware of it. So he's happy in his role. Glenn Boss is generally nice, but a nice person, but can lose his temper when things don't go as he expects. It's usually Glenn who bears the brunt of this outburst. What frustrates Glenn even more is that every time the MD takes on the role of an angry blamer, Glenn inevitably falls into the role of powerless self-loather. Okay? Now, there is a dynamic there. I talked before about starting a conversation well and ending very bad. Sometimes we start bad from the beginning and end worse. But the idea is to look at the role that we finish in that relationship or conversation, and for us to say that role, that end, was the purpose of my conversation. It's not the purpose what I would like for the conversation to be, but it's a matter of fact what it is. So if I end as a frustrated screamer in a conversation, I can say, wow, the purpose of that conversation was for me to end it like this. So that is for us to see, can I change that? I am happy with that. So the idea of the role cascade is go back to the dynamic of the role and to see what happened. So let's go to see what happened with Glenn and the managing director. Glenn is relaxed. He's a relaxed achiever. He's happy, relaxed, and see he's doing his work. The managing director finds something wrong in his work or whatever, and he becomes an angry blamer. So let's come back again to relaxed achiever. Is relaxed achiever a constructive, fragmented, or ambivalent role?
Constructive.
Sorry?
Constructive.
Constructive, because it has an emotion that is constructive, and it also has a role that is an action that is constructive. The managing director is angry blamer. Is this constructive or fragmenting?
Fragmenting.
Fragmenting, because it has a fragmenting emotion and a fragmenting action. Then, when Glenn sees that and receives the blast from him, he becomes a cautious, silent observer. What is that? Constructive or fragmenting?
Constructive.
It's still constructive. He's cautious.
Fragmenting, I think.
It's constructive because he's cautious. He says, what the heck is happening here? And he's a silent observer. He says, where is this going? So he's neutral in that sense. Then the managing director becomes a cruel accuser. And Glenn then goes to intimidated apologizer. What is intimidated apologizer? Constructive, fragmenting, or ambivalent?
Ambivalent.
Fragmented. Sorry?
I thought fragmented.
I think ambivalent.
It could be ambivalent or fragmenting. I think I will go to fragmenting, but it's fragmenting actually, because he feels intimidated, that minimized, and is apologizing for something he didn't do. So how many times in family dynamics we see that happen? At the end of the presentation, I'm going to send you a role cascade of a domestic violence situation. No? That is a true story. So intimidator, apologize. The managing director is like a dog with a bone. He becomes a critical put-downer. So instead of changing, he becomes harder. And then Glenn becomes a paralyzed withdrawer. What is paralyzed withdrawer?
Fragmented.
Fragmented, totally fragmented. And then when he sees that he's paralyzed and he appreciates Glenn and he's a withdrawer, he becomes a patronizing encourager. What is patronizing encourager? Constructive, fragmented, or ambivalent?
Ambivalent.
So which part is constructive in the role?
Encourager.
Encourager. So encourager is fantastic as a managing director to encourage his employee. But the way he's doing it, in a patronizing way, weakens the role that he's doing. Okay, so it doesn't have an effect on the other person. And Glenn becomes a powerless self-loather. Okay, so can you imagine finish the day like this and then goes home? He's a family person, and he goes heavy. And he becomes a devaluer hider. He hides between himself. So what are these roles? Constructive or fragmented or ambivalent?
Fragmented.
They are fragmented.
Okay.
They're fragmented. He lost his shine, and then he goes home and he plays the role of an invisible family robot. Just is nobody in the house. So this is very interesting to see what will be the effect of this role at work in the house, in the home. Does it make sense?
Totally.
Okay. So can you see that something similar could happen in a family? And we can project that could happen in a party, in a Christmas. So we have somebody that every time the person comes, we need to be uptight because using the other workshop we had, the person is high maintenance, and it's hard in that moment. That person is high maintenance, hard to deal with that person. So doing this role cascade will help us to see what happened before and what could happen in reality. Because in that place, remember Viktor Frankl, we need to find that between a stimulation and a response, what is between stimulation and response?
There is space.
There is a space. And it's that space that we call it the point of power. It's the only window that we have to act. So if we go to this role cascade, where do you feel that was the moment that Glenn has to be the point of power? Where was the window? Where was the space that instead of going from constructive to fragmenting, that he could have act differently?
Between 3 and 5.
Between 3 and 5. Okay? So any idea from you that he could have done? Any feeling? So it has the boss that is ballistic. It's blaming him in that sense. Just start angry blamer. What role could he plan? What role could he play that may not, but may avoid this cascade of ending so bad during the day and going home so exhausted?
I wonder if he wasn't intimidated, if he didn't get scared. If another feeling was in him, maybe it would have turned out otherwise. I don't know.
He's not intimidating yet. Remember, the window is very little window. So one is to say what? Can you repeat what you say?
Like cautious, silent observer is one thing, but the next time he responds, he already scared, intimidated, and it's as if there's no way back from that point.
No, this is so. Instead of going to intimidate and apologize, what could he have done?
Set a boundary.
Set a boundary. For example, in which way? With which emotion? An angry boundary setter?
No.
Okay, this is why it's so important, the emotion and the action. Any suggestion?
Well,
how about curious explorer?
Aha!
Yes.
Clever. Curious explorer. So let's go to the roles. We have done this. So we have the role cascade again, and we look at the point of power, and we can have a naive inquirer. I put it here, but I like yours more. Yours more. Use a curious explorer. For example, what how could he acted out that role? A curious explorer.
Perhaps to reflect how what are you all observing. So it's more of like I hear that you notice something. Could you share more? What are you trying to tell or say? Something like that.
Excellent. Very good.
Mhm. Mhm.
This is the action of the naive inquirer. Naive inquirer is one of the more important roles to play. I like to confess that I'm very good in teaching it, but I'm not very good in doing it because I'm also an 8 in the Enneagram and I go for it. So this is my learning, this is my therapeutic growth. How to learn how to do that. But naive inquirer is a very important role because it's neutral and you ask the person, as you said, no, as a curious explainer. That is a naive explorer, sorry. Can you tell me more about it? Is there anything that I don't know that you're informed? Any other role? Fantastic, that role. Any other one?
Can we also acknowledge the other person's angry so that also to let them know that they're also angry? Sometimes we emote and we are not quite sure. So probably saying that I see that you're getting angry and can you tell me more about it, where you're coming from or where is this anger coming from?
Perfect. Like what would be in role theory? It's important to learn how to put it in role theory. So like an empathetic acknowledger, do you think?
Yes, empathetic acknowledger. Yes.
Yeah, like an empathetic acknowledger. So I acknowledge that you are very, very frustrated, annoyed, or whatever. As I could say, because he's the EA, would like a glass of water, can I make your tea? Just created a space to deal with that. Any other one? This is very important for us to play with ideas.
I was thinking self-confident responder.
Self-confident responder.
If he knows that he hasn't done anything wrong, he can respond with self-confidence and not just take the accusation.
Yep. Yes. In situation like that with an 8, the self-confident will be fantastic if he can do it well and the managing director accept it, but it's a little bit risky.
Okay.
But it's ideal. It's ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I haven't done anything. It's what are you talking about? But we can do that in a way that is more empathetic, is more inviting the person to my territory.
Not confronting.
No confronting. Anyone else? Here I put a gentle boundary setter. Yep, curious explorer. Excellent.
Yeah, I think surprise would be something also to show. Like, yeah, that you're
Yes,
surprised. Something like surprise, gentle. I don't know, surprise.
it's true. It's true, and I've thought of that. It's a surprise reflector. Wow.
Yeah.
Gee, this is very, very strong for you. I wonder what happened. No.
Yeah.
So the idea is to break the pattern. Can you see that we are with a role cascade? We're transferring something that is extremely subjective in something that is objective with names. That. And then we go back into that and we are going to find what is our point of power. Now, very often, we start on the wrong foot. But it's important then to see why I was an anxious reactor, for example. Just to go beyond that, I had to live my life in a peaceful way. But very often I'm in a relaxed relationship, I'm okay, and a phone call, an email, a comment from somebody, it makes me go ballistic. And it sometimes is so fast that we go from green to red in a millisecond. So the idea of the technique, the amber light, is to help us to stretch the amber light, like in the lights in the street, and to be able to notice more what happened in my body. We start with the body, because the cranial nerves will always inform the body before I notice the emotion. But it's very hard for us sometimes to read our body. But it's for another conversation. Okay? How does it sound, this way of thinking?
It's interesting, but it's hard for me. Like if my boss or my father, when I was a child, blamed me with something, I get surprised or a small shock, you know. So it's hard for me to think. So I guess I get a bit paralyzed, and I go back with confronting, you know.
Excel, or withdrawing or disappearing, you know?
Yeah.
So the question, I think what you're saying is very important. When we are little, very often we don't have much choice, and we react in the first way we can. The idea of the therapy, of the growth in our life, learning how to live life better, is to say, I don't need to respond like that anymore. And this is a way to learn. How can I do that better? I used to do this all the time. Now, what is the point of power? What roles I can learn now? And this is not one session. This is a process. Now I have to learn how to confront the person. How I need to disappear. I need to go. I need to stop that relationship. But I can do that in a constructive way or in a fragmenting way. But this is the idea of therapy. I used to live like that. That is destroying me, is weakening me. And now I like to learn how to live life better. This is why the role of the therapist, the companion, is so important. So in the session, I do that in the session. If I have a whiteboard, it's better because you do it big. There you write it, tack, 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 and you talk with the person, if not in a piece of paper. And we're explaining this to the person, to the client. The same thing I'm sharing with you, we share to the client. There is a way that we respond constructively, fragmentally, ambivalent, because the therapeutic process is also an educational process that we are learning how to deal with life better. Now, did you have I asked you, I said we send you a graph for you to print. Have you done this?
No, unfortunately, I did not have the time to print it.
So what about if one of you become a protagonist and we do the process together? Can I have a protagonist who would like to go to a relationship that it's okay if stop sharing? I stop sharing. So is anyone who would like to think of a relationship that is a little bit complicated? It could be for Christmas. I said, gee, I don't want to have that that tension again, and or any other relationship. It doesn't matter, because as for an example is the same. Can I have somebody who?
I have this kind of relationships, of course, but I'm surrounded with the people for now, so I think it's not time for me.
Are you at work?
No, there's some problems in my house, and I came here with my relations, to my relations. I'm a guest now, and
Okay.
they are speaking, of course, in Georgian, but
Okay, good. Anyone who would like to look at a relationship and to have an X-ray on that relationship?